You've been told not to slide your hips, but the reality is that when we look at the best players, they're moving the center of their hips anywhere from 3 to 6 inches toward the target at impact from where they were to address. You see, if I don't get some lateral movement of my hips coming into impact, I'm going to tend to hang back and my club's going to bottom out before the ball. If I miss the ground, that's going to be my thin shot. If I hit the ground, that's going to be my fat shot. So if I want to make sure that I'm getting ball first and then turf contact afterwards, I have to get some lateral hip movement in the downswing to be able to get that club to bottom out in front. So I have a great drill for you that's really going to help you to do that. But first we have to understand 3 key things. Number 1 is we can't move the hips or slide the hips away from the target in the backswing. See, if I move my hips away from the target like this and my leg gets more straight up and down, I'm just going to have a hard time getting much leverage to move my hips to my lead side. And also, I just have a long way to go. So it's usually a death move to really slide the hips too much. When we look at better players, we're going to see, if you imagine there's a wall right here, if we draw a line on the outside of my hip, you're going to typically see a tour player go into that line just a little bit right in the beginning of the backswing, and that's just to shift some pressure into the trail's foot, getting some momentum moving in that direction. And then as they continue to move up halfway up into the swing, you're going to see that hip move away from that line, that hip turn back. The other thing that helps is that helps you to turn the hips. If I slide the hips, I'm going to have a hard time turning my hips in the backswing if I do it too much. So I want to make sure I get a little bit, I kiss that wall, and then I drive my tailbone away from that wall and toward the target and get a good hip turn in the backswing. So that's number 1. Number 2 is we want to make sure that we're not just moving our hips forward and our whole body is moving forward. You see, if I go up to the top, I'm in this great position, right? And then I just move my hips forward like this and my upper body stays too far away from the target. Well, I'm going to still have that same problem. It's still going to be hitting behind the ball. My club's still going to be bottoming out before the ball. And also, when I get my hips moving too far forward and I get this bumped out like this, I'm going to have a hard time rotating because everything just gets locked up in here. So I'm going to tend to go like this and then just kind of flip the club through there. I'm not going to be able to rotate. So that's number 2. We have to make sure that our upper body is moving with our lower body. What we want to imagine here is that our lead shoulder here, our left shoulder for right-handed golfers, is moving with our hip when we start the downswing. If the hip moves out in front like that, that's where we're going to get locked up. Now, number 3 is kind of the opposite of that. When I see a lot of people, they really try to get some momentum moving to the lead side. A lot of times they do it with the lead shoulder, and the lead shoulder gets out in front of the hip. So we get here, and then we kind of go like this. So we don't want to be leading with the hip, and the reason for that is that's going to make us tend to want to chop down and come over the top. That's going to lead to pulls, pull hooks, slices, just a whole nother host of problems that you don't want. So what we want to make sure that we're doing is that we're loading up. We're getting in this great position at the top. We're turning our hips back. We're not sliding the hips away. We're getting nice and centered at the top, and then we're driving to our lead side. We're getting some lateral hip movement, and the hip and the shoulder are working together as we're coming through. So here's a great drill to help you to accomplish this. We're going to start out with some practice swings here, and what we're going to do is we're going to go up about halfway up in the backswing, and we're going to pause. And when we're doing that, we want to make sure is that we're turning the hip. So I want to load up into my trail side. I want to get as much pressure into my trail foot as I can to this point without sliding my hips that way. So if you're kind of looking at pressure meters in my feet, I'm about 50-50 right now. And I'm driving into that right foot as I'm going back. And right now, I'm feeling like I'm 75-80% pressure in my trail foot. Now from here, I'm going to really drive off of my trail foot and move my hips toward my lead side as I complete my backswing. So I've gone up about halfway up, around lead arm parallel, or a little bit below that. I'm really in my trail side a bunch. I'm going to drive off of that as I get to my lead side. And I'm going to keep my lead shoulder and my lead hip moving together as I swing through and come all the way around into the full finish. So what you want to imagine there, what I didn't do a good job there of, is you want to be imagining this club and hitting the ground well in front of where the ball is. So let's give that another try here. Let's give a good practice swing here where I go here, I pause, I've loaded up. Now I'm going to move to my lead side as I complete my backswing. I'm going to have some lateral hip movement. I'm going to hit the ground in front of the ball in the down. So there we go. I got the good ground contact ahead of where the ball was. I can see where the mat's a little bit roughed up right in front of where that ball would be. So go nice and slow with this at first. Make sure that you're hitting that ground in front of where the ball would be. I would get 10 to 20 of these swings, starting out slow and then building up the speed, more toward a normal speed swing. Once you get comfortable with that, now we can move toward trying to do the same thing with the golf ball. And in the initial stages, you might want to tee up the golf ball. It may just make it a little bit easier. And then you can go, obviously you want to work toward taking away the tee and hitting it straight off the turf. But if you're hitting off of a mat, that's completely fine as well, like I am here. So now I'm going to set up the ball here. I'm going to try to do the same thing. I'm going to try to load up right away, get as much pressure as I can in that trail foot. Then I'm going to complete my backswing as I move to my lead side, get some pressure in that lead foot, and then swing all the way through into the full finish here. So let's see if we can get some good, solid ground contact here. Ball, then turf, with doing it the right way. So I'm going to go halfway up here, driving in my trail hip. Now I'm going to move forward and down toward the ball. Now I was able to get that good ground contact well in front of the ball. That was a really solid feeling shot. So get plenty of those, and then you want to work toward doing this more of a fluid swing. So taking out the pause in there, getting that same feeling, driving the hips back with no pause, and then coming around into the full finish there, hitting that ground well in front of the ball. Now, when I see people really struggle with this, it's because they're coming in and they're really releasing the club early. So I can have this proper hip movement forward, but if I stand up and I flip at it, you can see how that really shallows the club at the end, and I'm going to tend to pick the ball off the turf if I'm lucky. I'm going to tend to typically hit a thin shot. Now, some people, they'll really stay down and through it, but then they early release the club, they stick the club into the ground, and there's your fat shot. So even if we're having this proper hip movement, we can still struggle with those fat shots if we're not getting that club to release properly. And it really starts at the top of the swing. What we're doing with the wrists and the arms in the top of the swing to get that club in a good position, because if I have this club coming down steep in the start of the downswing, I have to stand up and I have to flip at the ball. And if I have this club coming down steep and I don't make that compensation, I'm going to stick that club right into the ground, and there's my fat shot. So we have to have these wrists and the arms working in the correct way, and that comes from getting this club to shallow out as we're starting the downswing. That comes from having the proper wrist angles, not cupping this wrist at the start of the downswing and having this face really, really open and then having to make a compensation for that later. It just leads to a lot of trouble. So stick around. I have a great bonus video where Clay's going to go over the tennis racket drill that's going to allow you to get those wrists and the arms working down in the proper way, get that club shallowing out, getting that club face squared up sooner, so that way you don't have to make these compensations. You can use this proper hip movement and make sure you're making that ball first, then ground contact, and get that good divot. So if you want to stick around, I'm going to play a preview of that video, but if you want to see the whole tennis racket drill, all you have to do is going to click the iCard that's going to appear up on your screen up in just a second. Or if you don't see the iCard, no worries, just go in the description below the video, select the link there. Play well, and I'll talk to you soon.
Good player problems. We're going to talk about shallowing that club shaft out as we're starting down, as we're doing this rotating of the face that we worked on in the last video. As we start this downswing, what you'll see with basically all of the top players is, instead of coming kind of over the top and letting the hands come out away from their body, letting the club come out away from their body, again coming down steep into the ball and then having to open up, kind of fillet open the face and add loft to it, the flattening of the shaft should happen as soon as we start down. So as we start this downswing, what we want to have happening here, you can imagine that if I draw a line from the hosel of my club up through my right elbow, that's my swing plane line, my elbow plane. As I go to the top of the swing, I'm going to be slightly above that. And then as I start down, I want my hands to start to shallow out. I want the club to shallow out inside of this elbow plane. And at the same time, I'm going to be rotating.